if you can't embrace social media, and if you can't embrace SEO generation, and you can't embrace criticisms, you may miss some opportunities where the competition's like, how can I be better? Well, how can I better serve you? How can I better serve the clients?
All right, guys, on this interview, we got Christion House. He's an entrepreneur. He owns H2H Inspectors. He works here locally in Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati, and Lexington area. Christion, can you give us a second to introduce yourselves, tell the audience who you are?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Miguel Ortega. I really appreciate you having me on here. So Christion House, 12 years active duty Air Force. Once I got out of the Air Force, I came to Lexington to start a home inspection business. Started doing this full time in 2017. Part of the reason I got into home inspections, if that's what we're asking, I bought a house sight unseen in 2016. Not my first time, while I was living overseas, and paid $800 for a home inspection. And when I got the home inspection report, the grammar was bad, the verbiage was bad. Getting a hold of the home inspector was kind of bad. So I was technically almost unemployed for about a year, and then this fell into my lap. That negative experience as far as the quality of the service and the communication that I was experiencing. So I was like, man, there's got to be a better way. So hit the ground running, got licensed, and haven't looked back since 2017.
So, but you started it, right? You started H2H Inspections. You didn't buy it.
Yeah.
Correct.
So I've gone through a couple rebrandings. So at the time in 2017, I bought into a large national franchise. So that's how I got my start with the franchise originally. Got out of that, rebranded, and then started doing my own thing.
Nice. Well, I know you and I spoke offline a couple of times. We're around the same circle of networking, and I know entrepreneurship. Because I'm just starting off, right? I've been in entrepreneurship for now a year with my business. I'm doing real estate as well, but I know that you go through trials and tribulations. It can be, a definitely a lonely road. I mean, how has that been with you? I mean, how have you overcome that? Because I see you and I'm like, man, Christion's he's doing great. He's on social media. He's posting. His business is growing every time I talk to you. I mean, how have you navigated through those times?
Hey, great question, Miguel Ortega. I appreciate that. So 2016, maybe 2015, 2016 was when I got out of the service. So it was a really big transition for me because I'd lived overseas for over 10 years at the time. 2016, got out of active duty Air Force, and again, had that bad home inspection, which kind of opened my eyes up into the industry. It was very difficult as far as the transition from active duty and going back into the civilian life. Wasn't particularly well prepared as far as the transition, what I experienced getting out of the service. And then I did find a franchise home inspection company that I signed on to. Looking back big picture, there was some predatory marketing I think that might have been going on that I should have been a little bit more aware of. But I kind of blame myself as far as not doing that research into that system. So I was part of it for about a year to 2 years before I began to becoming disenchanted with that. Because when I started doing home inspections full time in 2017, a lot of their marketing tactics were archaic. They were old. And some of it was relevant information, but they really weren't keen on growing your business or exposure through social media. So I didn't get a paid home inspection, and this was hustling at least 3 days a week. I would go to Panera on Tuesdays because you can get Baker's Dozen at a discount. And I would go and get, these Baker Dozen of bagels at Panera Bread for a discount. And I would go drop these off at real estate agents' offices to market. But when I started doing this full time in 2017, I didn't get a paid job for over 4 months. Didn't get looked at. So something I realized on that journey is how lonely it is. Because again, nobody really cares about you. And it's so hard to create relationships with people, because when I moved to Lexington, Kentucky, at the beginning, I had no connections. I didn't know anybody. a big portion of the reason why I moved to Central Kentucky at the beginning was I was kind of close to family, just far enough away. They're like over an hour away, which is like perfect. But then it was also the community of veterans seemed to be really good as far as the support, and then the cost of living, of course, because in Northern Kentucky, Southern Ohio, Central Kentucky, the cost of living is pretty good in my opinion from what I experienced through all my travels. So when I started that, I had no favors to ask. I had nobody to ask anything of anybody. So I had to do it all on my own. And it was a very lonely process. Didn't make any money for 4 months. And I just kept my nose to the grindstone and I kept working hard. Through marketing, going to offices, doing little goodie bag drop offs. And then Saturdays and Sundays was a big way that I grew my business, because on Saturdays and Sundays in the real estate community, that's when you have the most open houses. Right. So I would get on Zillow, or I would get on realtor.com, or I would start stalking people on social media through Instagram and Facebook, and agents and people I wanted to get in front of, I would see when they would have open houses. So every Saturday, every Sunday, so like on a Friday night, I would look up 10 to 12 houses in a close proximity that I wanted to cover. And I would go to those open houses and I would just drop off free stuff and maybe a coupon and some, like a bottle of water and some snacks. And I would just like, hey, Christion House, or Christion House, I do home inspections. Just want to drop you off some snacks. I know how hard open houses can be. So hydrate, eat some snacks, keep your energy levels up. Yeah. And I would just do that. I wouldn't ask for anything. I wouldn't try to sell my service. I would just drop things off in hopes that people would remember me through those marketing approaches like that. Because what I learned is it takes 7 to 9 times for people to see you before they remember you. And I started small and simple that way, and then started gravitating more to social media and stalking people through social media and gaining more followers. And that was the beginning of how I grew my business. In 2017, I finished the year off, I think, with like 160 home inspections. And then 2018, I think I did 500 or something. And then that's when I started hiring. Because if you do 500 home inspections a year in my industry, it can get very challenging to keep up.
So I like how you mentioned the first couple of years were difficult, right? and not pretty, you know, because I think right now, even with social media, I mean, there's a lot of people that are afraid to be in a room by yourself, man, thinking about what's next, what do I have to do, you know. I mean, those are difficult conversations you have to have yourself, and most don't, right? You know, I'm kind of going through the same thing as, you know, I mean, that's, and it's good and it's bad, right? It can be difficult, right? I'm going through those things, but at the same time, I know it's like, once I get over this mountain, man, I'm just gonna be, you know, at a higher level. I'm gonna be better for it. So I appreciate that specifically. You know, why is it, do you think too many people are just maybe just afraid of, you know, facing their, you know, at least being aware of their own strengths, weaknesses, you know, what do I need to change? I mean, what do you think that causes that?
It's something I've learned through this process is embracing the awkwardness. It's okay to be awkward. Be your authentic self to the best of your ability. Be professional, be approachable, be presentable. That really matters. And it's okay to be awkward, because even if you're awkward or if you feel awkward, most people aren't going to know that you're feeling that way to begin with. So it doesn't matter. And when you remember that people aren't thinking of you that often in that way, that's if you can get over those mental hurdles and just embrace the awkwardness of it all. Mike Tyson said it best, and I never knew how to articulate it as well as Mike Tyson did. But he said, if you're a friend with everybody, you're your own worst enemy. Yeah. And it's okay if people don't like you. You can't make everybody like you. You're not going to create fans with everybody. So in the service industry, which we're in, you're gonna meet people who are never going to give you an opportunity, no matter how hard you try. And that's okay. Move on to the next person. There's so many opportunities out there. And when you're vulnerable, and even if you're awkward, stuttering, all that other stuff, embrace it. If that's If that's your introduction, fine. Stumble over your words and don't apologize for it. Just own it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, no, I agree. I think I like that quote from Mike Tyson. It's one of the ones that I enjoyed from his. Also, another quote that he has is, you're not going to know. Everybody has a game plan till you get punched in the face. And
Exactly.
it is a true. I mean, especially with entrepreneurship. I mean, you have a game plan, all right. You gotta change. You gotta pivot. You can't keep doing the same thing, right? I mean, you have to learn. You have to grow. You keep moving. Um, at least that's how it's been for me. But I think the biggest thing
Yeah.
with most people, if you're listening to this and you want to do entrepreneurship from the beginning, I think it's like having confidence in yourself, because when you're in entrepreneurship, you're gonna get punched in the face, in the gut, multiple times, and you have to realize, okay, am I gonna keep going?
Yeah.
At least my experience, and it seems like maybe a little bit for yours is, you're doing all the things, marketing wise, is it going to work out? Who knows? But you
Yeah.
put it out there in the hopes that it does.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Because you're not going to make a fan of everybody. So just move on to the next person. You never know what one good connection can make in the long term.
mhm. So I know you spoke about rebranding your business, and you've been in the business since 2016. We're in 2014 now. The home inspection industry. I mean, what do you see is coming up with that? And the reason, I guess, the reason why I say that is because I had a lot of conversations with people. Right, you have technology. It's technology is advancing like crazy. You have AI
Right.
that's coming into the mix. You have social media. I mean, how do you see yourself making these adjustments, not only for you as a business, but really to be competitive with other people and make sure you don't get left behind?
It's solidifying the relationships that you have, being grateful for the connections that you made. Make sure people who you're working with and working for, it's okay to show gratitude and appreciation for the opportunities. So any way that you can show gratitude or appreciation, even just a simple thank you, can mean a lot. Something I try to do often is follow up with past agents. Even with the guys I have on my teams, like follow up with past agents or our referral sources and ask for criticisms. I love criticisms. So if you don't have the guts to ask for criticism, how are you going to grow? Because you don't know what you don't know. I love criticism. Always want to try to be better, want to try to be better than I am yesterday. And that's what I continuously try to work for. As far as the industry goes, it is becoming quite prevalent now. If you cannot produce a home inspection report the same day, you may get left behind. A lot of deals that we're seeing right now are still doing 3-day, 4-day, 7-day, 10-day inspection windows. Because I remember back in 2018-19, it was 2-week inspection windows, 15 days was pretty common, and then of course during the pandemic, it was a frenzy, a buying frenzy, just because interest rates were so low. So inspection
Yeah.
time frames, if you could even get an inspection, were like 3-day inspection time periods, just because it was so competitive. So having the bandwidth to meet the demand of the services that you're providing means a lot. Software matters. Being able to get reports out same day really matters. Always working on your narrative as far as how you're speaking to clients in an educated manner without scaring people. It really matters. And that goes through, for my industry, we have continuing education credits that we have to do every 2 years, in addition to with the new construction methods. I mean, I watch a lot of social media. I see what other industry leaders are doing across America, and reading up on the content that they're providing as far as to expand my knowledge. So as far as the industry goes, it's going to be really interesting, especially with, I think there might be a reduction of real estate agents coming in our markets here probably in the next year, which may drive a reduction of home inspectors possibly.
Mm.
So because the inventory is still low.
Yeah.
And when inventory is low, that's where you really got to hone in on the marketing and being adaptable and adjust. And if you can't embrace social media, and if you can't embrace SEO generation, and you can't embrace criticisms, you may miss some opportunities where the competition's like, how can I be better? Well, how can I better serve you? How can I better serve the clients? And expand on that knowledge and ability to be open-minded.
Yeah, I guess I never thought about that. If there's those agents that you guys will be impacted as well. I guess that's never crossed my mind when it came to what's gonna I think you're right, it's gonna might happen. More agents are gonna move out. I guess that does have an impact on you guys as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, because if there's not enough houses, then there's not enough work, and with inventories being low, it's going to be much more competitive. Because even when we have clients that are price shopping our services, um, you know, sometimes we'll get some feedback like, well, your prices are a little higher than the competition. And like with my office staff and like even with myself, we talk about it, like, tell the clients, like, put the ball back in their court. Like, hey, we hear that from time to time. Why do you think their services are cheaper than ours? And then see what they say. And if they still don't go with you because, your prices are too high, don't apologize because your prices are too high. You don't want to work for everybody. You may not be able to meet their what their needs are, what their expectations are, because sometimes we get clients that believe we can predict the future for them. And in our industry, all we can do is prepare them for the future, and that's it.
So I like your message, and I know one of the things you mentioned is you've scaled, you've hired on, your office, your technicians. I think that's maybe one of the biggest problems that small business owners face is, maybe not hiring soon enough because we feel like we can do it all. I mean, how did you overcome that? Because I mean, that's so important to scaling, but we still have difficulty wanting to make the decision to hire people because we want to control everything, or we feel like maybe we can hire the right person. How do you navigate through that?
So, how mental health is important, physical health is important. Like, we invest in ourselves so we can be the healthiest versions of ourselves. Oftentimes, business owners forget that financial health and financial understanding is just as is very important in business. If you cannot understand the finances and have the ability to save every penny that you earn, you're going to fail. And that's where a lot of small business owners mess up, because they don't save every penny that they can. I paid myself as little as possible at the beginning, saved up as much cash as I could, so I had a nice buffer in the event that any unforeseeables happened. And one of the first things that I did was, once I saved up, the best thing that I needed for myself was an office manager. And at the beginning, I kept it simple because I just needed two things done. As far as on the leadership side. So I needed somebody to answer the phone and then book home inspections. So I created a narrative at the beginning, let them rehearse it, took my first office manager hire on multiple home inspections, so they had a basic understanding of the industry, and then let them run with it. And the leadership side, you have to be open-minded. You have to ask questions. Anybody that you're hiring, you have to set expectations early and often. If you find yourself yelling at your employees, you're failing as a leader. You're not communicating your skill sets well enough. You should not be yelling at anybody that's on your team, because then that's a failure on your part as a leader, not setting the proper expectations. So my leadership experience is quite broad because I did so much leadership through the military and through the service, and I took a lot of that knowledge and incorporated it into my business with a softer touch, of course, because you got to have a softer touch. And I try to keep it as simple as possible, take care of my people to the best of my abilities. And I also, during the hiring process, ask, what can I provide them? Because everybody needs to make money, of course, right? But sometimes flexibility is important. Sometimes position is important. Sometimes, title of the job title is important. So those are things to consider too. You need to understand the why of the people that you're hiring, because that's also going to help develop your leadership skill sets to ensure that you're giving them the best version of yourself for what they want to achieve.
Okay.
Did that make sense? Did I explain that
No,
well enough?
it does. It does. And I think, at least again, for most entrepreneurs, I mean, that's the biggest thing there is, you gotta have to make sure you at least try to break it down and what do you need, and so that way you know who to hire. So, no, I think that's great. And also a great way to kind of go to the next segment, which is our closing segment. One, I appreciate you coming on here to do this interview, so that way people can see how it is in entrepreneurship. I'll give you I'll give you a little commercial. I mean, how can people help you out, Christian? What's next for you? You did a 30-second commercial. What do you want people to know
Yeah.
about H2H?
So we cover Central Kentucky, Northern Kentucky, Southern Ohio. We can do radon testing, mold testing, lead testing, asbestos testing, sewer scopes, thermal imaging scans. We're licensed on termite inspections as well. Honestly, I would like just more likes and follows on social media through Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Fingers crossed TikTok doesn't get banned. I love TikTok.
Yeah.
The most
Yeah.
addictive social media platform, and I've learned so much from it in comparison to the other social
Instagram
media
and Facebook.
platforms.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So
Well, I'll make sure to add your information. So if anybody wants to get a hold of you, I'll make sure to add it on the YouTube link, and they can reach out to you. So that way, hey, you guys can at least connect and introduce yourselves.
hey, I appreciate the opportunity, Miguel Ortega. I appreciate you, sir.
I appreciate you. Hey, thanks for taking the time. Talk to you soon.
Yes, sir.